Um, Hi. Damn, I just turned the brightness down instead of up. Whoops. Okay, that's good enough. Fuck it. So my last video received some comments from some individuals. Um, I was talking about electronic minimalism, right? And there were some users who were talking about in the comments, sort of opposing that. We might call them uh, electronic maximalist users, or for short, maybe Emacs users. And these people were a bit mad at me for some reason. I don't really know why. But I'm not here to respond to that for a simple reason that this is the real conclusion I reached when I was thinking about my response to these comments from Censored Tone and Autism and so on. And that was that I don't really know anything about a computer. I don't know what computer is. I'm not sure what a computer is. Um, so I really can't really weigh in on this topic, right? Like it doesn't really matter because I don't know how to program computers very well. Um, and in fact, it goes even further than that because I'm not really sure what a computer is, and I'm also not really sure what it means to learn to code or learn to like when people say learn to code, I'm not really sure what they're asking me to do. Because I'm not really sure what coding is, and this has all sort of been buzzing around in my head. I'm not really sure what computers do. I don't really understand how they work. I don't really understand what programs do. Like, as I understand it, computer science is a subset of mathematics, right? It's a field of maths. Um, and I'm not very good at maths, first of all. But secondly, when people say learn to code, I don't really know what they're asking me to do. Do they mean to learn a programming language arbitrarily? Because I'm assuming not, right? Like, you can abstractly know the syntax of a programming language, right? But that's not really very helpful. I think what they mean is to have practical knowledge about creating computer programs, writing computer programs. But even then, like it's very easy to write a bad computer program that sort of does what you want it to do, roughly. You know, a famous example of this is Undertale. You know, like Undertale is famously badly programmed, but was extremely successful. But I'm assuming they don't want me to just write Undertale because I've already done that. It's called a Free Fish Game. Okay, hold on. I don't mean I'm comparing it in terms of it being badly programmed, not in terms of the quality of the game. Uh, Although Free Fish Game is better than Undertale, but anyway. Um, what I mean by this, let me go into more detail here. What is this dog is doing strange things in front of me and distracting me. Uh, so there's a whole bunch of languages, right? People made up these languages for programming, and I don't really understand what they do. Like people talk about different things, and I don't really understand how any of it works. Like there are lots of different languages. They do different things, maybe, but they all sort of do the same thing, which is they do math on a computer. I don't really understand it at all. Like I've done a bit of programming in my time, sort of. You know, if you've ever made a computer do any sort of logical operation, as far as I understand, you've done some programming. If you ever made a logic gate in Minecraft, you've done programming. If you ever played Factorio, you've done programming. If you ever used an Excel spreadsheet to do some sort of arithmetic, you've done programming. If you've ever written a Bash script, you've done programming. But that's not what these people are talking about, right? They want something more specific. Like, have you ever written a program in C or Python or whatever? And I've done that. I've written some programs in Python. I've not done anything in C. I've done some other stuff, you know. The most intensive programming I've ever done was on my video game that is not really finished or particularly good, um, uh, which is called Free Fish Game, where you made a lot of logic for that game. Uh, and I suppose that was programming, but it didn't really feel much like programming, you know. Uh, at least if that's what programming is like, then then I'm not really sure how to feel about that. Because it was mostly just writing some bullshit. It didn't work, and you just read the error message about why it didn't work, and you just go back and fix it. And then it puts another error message, and you just read that, and you're like, I don't understand that error message. So you copy paste that into Google, and then you figure out what it means, and then you fix it. Like, is that what programming is? Because most of that isn't actually writing programs. It's mostly fixing broken programs. Maybe if you get good enough, you don't have to do that bit. I don't really understand. People talk about programming languages. I don't really understand what any of that is. I don't know what a memory address is. This is something that's always confused me. Like, what's a memory address? Is it a place on the physical chip? Is it a physical like when people say it points to a memory address? Is that a metaphor, or does that mean like if you could open it up and see the different transistors, I could somehow point to a place and be like, that's 0x, whatever the fuck, right? I don't really understand that at all. um, I also don't really understand why I'd want to program anything. Like it's pretty rare that I come across a problem in my life that could be solved programmatically. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what other people feel about this, but like most of the time, um, yeah, that's kind of how my life goes, right? Like there's not really many times when I come across a problem and I'm like, if only I knew how to program, right? Like there's sometimes, but then generally speaking, the thing is that if I were to do it, it would like I also have in the back of my mind, right? The way I learn things in general is I come across a problem I want to solve and I learn the skills to solve that problem, right? So let's just take some examples of problems that I've wanted to solve that have required programming recently. So there was one example, which is there's this thing called the UXN. I don't have to explain what it is to you right now, but it's this weird. Just don't worry about it. But there was this thing called UXN, and I was like, it'd be cool if you could play Tetris. So I was like, maybe I could play a program Tetris clone in UXN. But then someone already did that. So I was like, okay, there's not really any point in me doing that then, because it's gonna be better than whatever I can make, because I suck. Okay, so that was one thing that happened. So that's something that's basically useless and just existed as like a random little thing. Because there's better ways to play Tetris, right? And another thing that happened recently is that there's this video game called Team Fortress 2, and it has some problems with the official matchmaking system. And so some people were thinking, including me, it would be nice if there was some sort of community-made matchmaking system that would place you in community servers. The thing about that is, I know they would have something to do with making a website. I can do that bit. I can make websites, and then it would have to somehow interact with an API somehow. And I don't really know. I don't really know that bit. Like, I don't. I wouldn't know where to start. But like, how do I grab information about game servers within a like video game? I don't really know how you'd figure that stuff out. So it was basically not even possible for me because I didn't even know where to start with doing that. And then I waited a few months and someone did it better than I could have done it. Anyway, so like, what was the point? That's kind of the situation I'm in general. Is that whenever there's a problem, and I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself. If the answer is that doing it yourself is probably not the best option because someone else will probably do it better than you could do it. And then there's the final thing, which is that programming in like high level languages is never really very interesting to me, or has never been conceptually interesting to me. Um, but unfortunately, that's also the most useful stuff. Like, it's pretty hard to make anything useful in like pure assembly. Like it just takes a lot longer to write anything and to do anything complicated in pure assembly. That's why no one does it, right? That's why high level languages were invented, because assembly. I don't know. Again, I don't really know what I'm talking about here, but as I understand it, if I write some like Python code, I can run that Python code on any computer with Python and it'll work, right? It'll compile. But if I write some like x86 assembly, that only works on like a certain chip. Because it's the instructions for a certain chip. If I write in 6502 assembly, I'm not gonna be able to run that unless I'm emulating a 60. You know what I mean? So like low level assembly programming is like kind of pointless, but it's also what underlies everything else, and it's also the only thing I'm really interested in. Like I don't really know what the difference like people on Denpa-chan and people in my comments, people have been having arguments about like C and Lisp and stuff, and like I don't really understand. I don't really know what that means. Like I know that those are different programming languages, but I don't really understand. I don't really know what the difference is. you know, I don't really know what the difference between those two things is. And if I look it up, it's gonna be stuff that I don't understand because I don't know how to program in C or Lisp, right? People say you should learn C. I don't really know what they mean by learn C. Like, do they want me to like? How do you learn a programming language? Do you learn it by like rote memorization? Is it like learning a physical language, like a like French? Is it like you learn the grammar and syntax? Is that what they mean by learning a programming language? Because I don't really understand. Like I don't think that's that helpful. I feel like that's that's if that was the case, then you could learn a programming language in like 2 minutes because it's like Tokipona. There's not that many words to learn. So clearly that's not what people mean when they say to learn. I feel like that can't be what people mean when they say learn to code. It wouldn't take an entire multiple degrees in computer science to learn a few syntax rules and whatever, like, you know what I mean. So clearly that's not what people mean, but then I'm not really sure what people mean. If that's not it, like, what do they mean? If they're talking about like good programming practices, how to make a computer do things in few CPU cycles or whatever, then why does it, like, aren't all programming languages Turing complete? Like, can't they all do the same shit? Am I wrong about that? I might very much might be wrong about that. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's what this whole video is. Like, but how can they be different if they're all the same? If they all do the same thing? Like at the end of the day, they're all just compiled to assembly, and assembly is just abstracted machine code. Like they're all just moving bits around, Aren't they all doing the same? I don't understand. I don't really know. Like why is Lisp different from C? Don't they do the same shit? I don't really understand. What does it mean for when people say C is not memory safe? I don't know what that means. I've seen so many people say that. I have no idea. The thing about these questions is that the answers are probably contained within the internet, but I just don't know. I just can't be bothered to learn it. It's not that you can't be bothered. It's like I often look stuff up and no one wants to give me a straight answer. Uh, like I don't really know what what memory safe means, you know. And that's another thing is I don't really understand how the internet works. I've been trying to understand how the internet works for a long time. I still don't really understand. Like I know there's this thing called like TCP. Right. I'm not really sure what it does. Like I don't really understand how things. I don't. I just don't get it. I just can't really. There's not really resources to understand this stuff. There probably are, but I don't know where to find them. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. But I don't know what a port is. When people say, something is on port 6331 or whatever. That's probably not a real port address, but I don't know. I don't really know what that means. You know, uh, I don't really understand any of it. Like how is this data flowing through a wire? I don't really understand. It seems it seems very complicated to me. And I think the way most people get around this is by just not worrying about it, right? Like they just write in Python or JavaScript or whatever high level language they learn, right? And they just write in that and they just focus on that. And they don't really care about like the physical processes that are taking place under the hood. But and that's pretty smart. But I don't really understand how you can separate those two things. Like if you want to write surely if you want to write good code, you're optimizing it to be good, as in you're trying to make it efficiently move bits around. I don't really understand how computers move bits around. Like I know that there are these things that are either on or off, and they're really, really small. They're called transistors, I believe. Um, but I don't really know how that works. Uh, I know that you take some silicon, which I don't really know how you get silicon in the first place, but you get some, you make a wafer out of it, and you use something called photolithography, where you sort of etch into the silicon some shapes, and somehow that makes certain things into um, it makes them conductive of electricity, and then you can use that to do mathematical operations. I think that's how computers work. Um, and I don't really understand this hardware. Like 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 stuff about people say stuff about like things taking voltages. It's people say something like it's high on some volt, it's low on some. I don't really. I mean, I guess I kind of understand what that means, but I also kind of don't understand what that means. It seems there's a lot of timing involved, and that seems really complicated. Um, but the real thing that I'm trying to get to at the bottom of this is that I don't really understand why I need to understand any of this stuff. Or that's not what I mean. But what I mean is, okay, so I want to learn low level programming, whatever the fuck that is. Like when you look into this stuff, what they tell you is to buy like an Arduino and make an Arduino that automatically waters plants. Like motherfucker, right? I don't need an Arduino that automatically waters plants. Also, people have already made that. Like even if I wanted to do that, the most effective way to make an Arduino that automatically waters plants is to go on Google and find someone's GitHub who's made it, better than I would ever possibly be able to do it, right? Like, why do you want me to make a shitty version of something? Like, I need something that hasn't been done before. And I have some vague ideas about this, but they're all too complicated. That's the problem, is that all of the really basic beginner projects have already been done a million times better than I could ever do them. And so it saps me of motivation to learn. But then the like intermediate to advanced projects, um, they require the beginner level knowledge, which I don't have. You know what I'm saying here? Like, okay, if I fucking learn some very specific assembly language for some particular chip architecture, let's say I learn 6502 assembly because I don't know why not. There's also this language called Forth, and Forth has always been really interesting to me, but I don't know what it does or why you would use it. Like it's very hard for me to draw the line or draw the connection, right? Like when I look at how to do stuff in Forth, like I can see, okay, you do maths like this. You can push stuff onto the stack and you can manipulate the stack in a particular way. Right, then I can understand that. I know how to do that, right? And the stack is some particular it's like it's kind of like a physical thing. I don't know if it actually is a physical thing. This has never been explained to me. It would be nice to know if could you get out a really small laser pointer and point to the like open up a computer and be like that's where the stack is. That'd be really nice if you could if someone could explain that to me. But I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming it's an abstract land. But maybe not. I don't know. Um, but you can do that, and I'm like, okay, so it's like a calculator. Like I can. It's a weird reverse Polish notation calculator. You know, fine. But then they start, and then I don't even understand. Like, what do you do from there? I don't really know. Like, how I don't really know how you go from manipulating random abstract numbers on a stack to like doing anything useful. You know. Uh, and that's basically my problem with programming, right? Like, I don't really understand how you like draw something to the screen. I don't understand how screens work. That's something else. Like, you can buy just a screen with nothing else, but you can't just plug that into something. You need a driver, and I don't really know what that does. I don't really know what a driver does. I mean, I'm assuming it delivers power to the screen, but I don't. Yeah, I mean that's all I know that it does. Um, like, do you see what I mean? Like, I think I get too caught up in all of this stuff where I'm like, I need to understand exactly how the basics work before I start. Like, if you're making, so I know how to add some numbers together in Forth. I know how to define a word. I know how to do some basic stack manipulation. Okay, boom. How do I use that to program something useful? Like, what could I even do that would be useful with this knowledge? I can't imagine this ever being useful. Like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, what do I maybe I could program a simple game. Like, how? I don't really know. I don't really understand. How do you make that leap? Like, how would I make graphics display on a screen? I have no fucking idea. Sometimes it just works. Like UXN works like this. Like, there's just built-in stuff that makes graphics work. But I don't really understand how it makes graphics work. I don't really understand like why or how that happens. It just seems to be built in. Is that how things work? Are things just built in? Is this something to do with firmware? I don't know. I have no fucking idea. I have absolutely no idea. Like, theoretically, you should be able to have some component and some wires and some other component, and then you can do stuff with that somehow. But I don't really understand how. Is like, am I just retarded, or like just none of this whole stuff fundamentally makes any sense to me. It's just all extremely confusing. It just seems like magic. It seems like ma- magic. It seems like spells and stuff like that. But I want to actually understand what are the physical processes by which this is working. What, like, how this is a machine. This is a thing that I can hold in my hand, and it's full of little pieces. Like, how does me typing print hello world, like when I do that, I'm not actually fucking with the machine. I'm assuming, you know, I'm like that's all happening in abstract land. Like, is it, or is it like it is happening on the machine, but it's not, or is it? I don't, dude. Like, how do I explain this? I guess it is. I guess it is happening in the machine somewhere. Somewhere it's happening in the machine, but also, like, it's happening in the machine via layers. Like, if I type, you know, if I if I make a hello world program, it requires for that to exist that like keyboard work, screen work, you know, like this idea of like you can say print hello world and it prints hello world. That's already a very abstract thing. That's what like a, a fucking random bunch of silicon transistors doesn't like, how is that text? How is that text? That's not text. You know, I can understand how that's abstractly numbers, right? But it's not numerals. It's just numbers. It's just binary numbers. Like, and then I understand how you can have some translation between binary numbers into text. Like that's all fine. I understand that. But then how does that turn into pixels and like is like I'm operating layers of abstraction away from what's actually happening, which makes everything really confusing to me. Because like you touch something here, and then 5 years down the line, something else twists, and it's like I don't really. It's kind of a black box. Like when I type, I don't know. Hold on, let me get up a binary text. Okay. Like if I type fucking. Oh, this is wait. I meant text to binary, not binary to text. Hold on, text to binary. Okay, so if I type hello world, if I type print, fucking brackets quote hello world, something like that. This is pseudocode, right? Okay, so then somewhere in the computer there's this string that is like 0 1 1 1 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 0 0 1 0 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 0 1 1 1 1 0 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 zero one one zero one zero 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 0 1 1 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 1 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1 1 1 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 1 1 0 1 1 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 0 1. So you have that, so like somewhere there's a set of transistors that are turned on and off in that pattern. Okay, that makes sense to me. Is that actually true? Like, is that actually how it's working? Or is there some abstract shit going on where it's like, no, you won't actually find a set of transistors turned on and off in that pattern? Is that what, like, I just don't understand. Is that what I'm doing when I'm doing this? When I'm doing this, is that what I'm doing? I don't know. Like, does this make sense? Can someone explain to me? Can someone explain to me, is that what I'm doing when I write a Hello World program that, like, that exists somewhere on my, in physical space? In physical space, that exists. True or false? Answer me that. Okay, if true, if that's true, okay, how and why does it know? How does it know what to do? I feel like an idiot, but I also feel like most people just don't worry about this stuff and they just do their programming without thinking about it. But I can't do that. I need to understand before I do the programming, because otherwise I don't know what a good program is. Like I have a good idea that if we want a good program, it should run fast. Okay, I'm on board with that. And it should to run fast. You need to do some mathematical operation with, efficiently without that many CPU cycles. And I know what a CPU cycle is. That all makes sense to me. Okay, I understand this abstractly. I don't know exactly how it works, but that I'm okay with that. Um, I don't like somewhere there has to be some circuit board that somehow knows how to take zeros and do some mathematical process. Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening? So, like, there's a machine, let's say. Let's call it a machine, right? And on the conveyor belt, there's all of these zeros and ones that represent ASCII text. I don't think ASCII text is actually, is it? Is that happening? I have no idea. Tell me in the comments. But let's say there's some ASCII text that says hello world, or print brackets, whatever, hello world. But let's just say it says hello world, right? And it comes into this machine, and the machine does some mathematical operation to it, by which it takes those zeros and ones and transforms them into another set of zeros and ones that is longer and more complex, um, but which are equivalent to uh, some process by which pixels are manifested on a screen. Because this doesn't seem to be how it works. This doesn't seem to be how it works. The way it seems to work is that you have some highly abstracted program, in this case called X, right? Which is some sort of it somehow makes things appear on a screen, and that's what's doing everything. Like you're never actually touching the hardware. Everything's just happening inside some abstracted emulation. Is that the case? Maybe. I don't really know how any of this works, and that's my problem. So I don't know where to start. Like, I could read the structure and interpretation of computer programs. I could read that. I have a PDF of that somewhere. Um, I don't really understand what it does. I don't really know. I tried reading it, and it was just like we conjure the spirits of the computer with our songs, and I was like with our spells, and I was like, okay, it doesn't seem like this is not the way I learn things. That's basically what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing. I need to be able to type. Like when I was making my video game, it was very easy to do all the programming. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of physical effort and learning. But I wouldn't describe that process as um, like that was mechanically difficult, but it wasn't conceptually difficult. Like I could very much understand this is a problem I'm trying to solve. Like once you get your head around that, like once you're like, okay, what I have is I have a trigger here, and I need this trigger to send a signal to this object that tells us to do something, end the level or whatever, right? Like this all made sense. Like okay, I have this level, it's 3D geometry, and I have scripts attached to this, and this script dictates logic, and when I say end the level, what I really mean is to like change from this to like a screen that says well done, you did it, right? And so I have this trigger, and I can tell the trigger that when a 3D body enters the trigger, it should send a signal to this other script, and when this other script receives a signal that's called variable name whatever, right, it should say, okay, time to change the level to this screen that says well done, you beat the level. Like that's very easy to understand. Okay, I know exactly what I need to do. Now we just have to figure out how to do it. Great, excellent. I This is a process which I can completely follow through. But that's not how what like is that what people mean when they say learn to code? No. What they mean is abstractly understand how mathematics works. Which is not something I can understand because that's too broad. You've gone way too broad here. Like if someone says learn to make a fizzbuzz program. Like, okay, I could do that. I don't know how to do that right now, but I could very easily find the resources available, and learn to do that. Like that wouldn't be that difficult. But that's not what people say. People don't say that, and learning to do that wouldn't be very useful in itself, right? But I'm assuming what they mean by like the idea is you can take the knowledge that you gained learning to do a fizzbuzz, and you can then like somehow use that to do other stuff. Maybe I don't really know. I don't really know. Like this is do you understand what I my like have I done a good job expressing my issue here? The issue being that what's being requested of me is too abstract for me to really wrap my head around. It's too broad and vague for me to wrap my head around. Abstract is not really the right word. Vague, I think, is what I mean. It's unclear. It seems impossible. Like if that's the case, if that's what if surely when you say learn to program or learn to code, you don't actually mean learn to code. Because if that's what you mean, no one's ever done that, as far as I can tell. Like, you know, that doesn't seem like something that's possible for a human being. Also, here's another question. To what extent are the lessons you learn are the principles from one language transferable to another language? I.e., if I were a fairly accomplished C programmer, would I be able to pick up JavaScript very easily? I don't know. Tell me the answer to that question. Like, I'm assuming that it's similar to music in that sense. Like, is when you say learn to code, okay, hold on, wait. Let's compare it to something I know about. Let's say you're talking about synthesis, which is almost like programming. It's a little similar. It's quite similar. It's kind of like doing math. You're doing you've got a waveform and you're doing operations, mathematical operations to change the shape of that waveform. Okay, like let's say that you hand me a new synthesizer which I've never touched before, but the principles of like subtractive synthesis, let's say in this case, those stay true no matter what particular program I'm using. So it's like if you give me some sort of interface that I've never used before, I can still figure out roughly how to use it because I know like what ADSR is, I know what a filter is, I know what an LFO is, etc., etc., etc. So like, is that when you're programming the same thing where you're like, okay, well I don't know exactly how this works, but I know what a string is, I know what a variable is, I know, uh, you know, fucking floating point arithmetic work. I know, I don't know. That's pretty not relevant. But is that the sort of thing how this works? Maybe, maybe that's what they mean. So how did I learn to make music? Well, I just kept making music until I figured it out. So when they say learn to code, do they mean just program random shit until you figure out the principles which underlie the entire system? Like, is that what they mean? Because that would make some sense. If that was the case, that makes a lot more sense. But the thing that I'm right, because I understand, even though I never directly like when I started making music, I didn't go, okay, I need to know how waves work, right? I need to know the maths behind how you manipulate. What I did was I just fucked around and over time learned the principles and what they're doing, right? So is that how programming works? Like if you just fuck around for long enough, you understand what a memory address is.